Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome to Ascension Brotherhood podcast. Today, we've got with me one and only Nick Schroder. For those who don't know, Nikki is an amazing salesperson, amazing sales coach, but most importantly, he is even better human being. So, Nikki, welcome.
Thank you, Conrad. Nice to be here, man. Nice to see you.
Likewise, man. So, if you had to introduce yourself to someone who has never met you, how would you do it, in one sentence?
I help people to become better versions of themselves so they can make more money, one way or another.
Okay, and what would you say is the most common way to do that?
The most common way we do that is by coaching them with a skill set so that they can actually either sell more or make more money or be able to get into the shape they want to get into so they can make more money. It's a variation of those kinds of things.
Okay, cool. So that's actually, that's really interesting, but I'm assuming this is something that you haven't been doing this is not something that you have been always doing, right?
Correct. Yeah. No, this has been more of a recent part of my life because I've had lots of different, let's say, lives since I've been a kid. And this is the newest phase, so to speak. We're always going through phases, different chapters of the book, so to speak. So this is a more recent thing. About 2 years I've been doing this now. Okay.
Yeah, so just like you said, you had a lot of different lives, and every journey has a starting point, right? So when you think back to the early stages of your life, what do you feel set the stage for the person that you actually became right now?
Good question. I think it's going back all the way to when I was very young. So I was 6 years old and I went to the aquarium with my father in London, and I was holding his hand and he's taking me through, and there was an empty fish tank. And just to set the stage and let you know who I am, I've always been curious, excitable, adventurous and rebellious. And so I let go of his hand and I ran over to the fish tank and I was like, where the fuck are the fish? So I go, where are the fishies? As I did that, octopus, the camouflaged version, I don't know what they're actually called, but it popped off the floor and put its tentacles up against the window and his beak was trying to eat me. Because octopus have a beak, right?
Yeah.
It's terrifying, man. It looks like an alien, right? It's trying to eat me. So I'm screaming, I'm crying. I run back, I grab my dad's hand, tears, snot, everything. My dad sees, obviously, I'm distraught, and he leads me out of the aquarium, and he leads me around the side, down an alleyway, to a car park, to a van. And I look up and it wasn't my father. It was some stranger. And I got kidnapped at age 6, and I was sexually trafficked for 5 months. And I won't go into too much detail, but those were probably 5 of the most terrifying and hardest months of my life. And that experience shaped the person who I became as a result, but also the person that I am now. So I'm grateful for it now. But obviously, it did lead to a lot of chaos in life, let's put it that way, which I can obviously go into detail on if you want me to.
Yeah, of course. So when you say chaos, what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, after once I managed to escape and get home, of course, the emotional, psychological and physical damage that it did to me was tremendous. I saw somebody I really cared about who looked after me like she was my mother while I was there. She was also kidnapped and trafficked. They killed her in front of me. So there was a lot of things that I saw and a lot of things I had to do that obviously no child should have to do on this planet. And it caused me to be a very troubled child. So fights, school, fights outside of school, being expelled from pretty much every, school that I was in. I also had an incident when I was about 11 years old where I just completely flipped out at this kid, and I had a compass in my hand and I just stabbed him in the eye with the compass, and I got arrested for it, and they sent me to court, and I got convicted and everything at 11. And one of the stipulations for no juvie is juvenile prison, was that I go to a court-ordered psychiatrist and psychotherapist. and they diagnosed me with bipolar, ADHD, and something called antisocial personality disorder, which is essentially like a nice way to put like a bit of a psychopath, sociopath, in terms of the traits that I had and the lack of empathy I had for others, just because I felt like I couldn't understand other people and other humans because they couldn't understand me. So it led down a very interesting path in life where I just didn't feel like I ever fit in anywhere. And obviously, as a result, I just became more and more of a lone wolf, so to speak, and even more dangerous and rebellious and angry. And things at home weren't very good either as a result, because as you can imagine, you know, you lose your, as a father, if you lost your son when you're meant to be looking after him, it does damage to you too. So my father didn't take it very well. He became an alcoholic and was abusive because he couldn't handle it. So life at home wasn't very good. So, you know, at age 14, 15, I ran away and I went to live with the pikeys. You know, pikeys are, we call them pikeys. They're Irish travellers. It's probably a bit derogatory to call them pikeys, but they call themselves pikeys. So, and I'm part of them. So I ran and lived with them. And when I was living with them, one of the main things they did is, you know, just the way of life was bare knuckle boxing. And so I got into bare knuckle boxing, lots of fair goes, fighting in hays, bales of hay, making a bit of money off the back of that, and just being a violent bastard. And it was where I kind of came into my own and kind of understood who I felt like I was deep down. And, you know, I spent a long time there, and it led to even more trouble moving forward in life, which again, I can go into detail if you want to, but that's what I meant by chaos. Is there was always chaos around. It was always a crazy life, and one that I could never really make sense of. And it obviously did a lot of things to myself and to others, which I'm not too proud of.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you left, kind of run away from your house at what age?
About 14, 15.
About 14. Okay, got it. And right after you ran away, you started knuckle boxing?
Yeah, I lived with the pikeys and started bare knuckle boxing. Yeah.
Okay. And for how long that had been going on for you, like in your life?
How long had what been going on for?
For how long you actually have been, you know, traveling with the pikeys and kind of make a living through the knuckle boxing?
Well, that was probably for about 2 to 3 years. I can't, it's very difficult. Like when I think back to my life, like a lot of it is, I've dealt with a lot of the memories and things like that, because the memories there, you know, are quite vivid and graphic. And I've dealt with a lot of them, but also the brain, and I'll talk about this later because I got into cognitive performance training stuff. But the brain is quite smart in the sense that it tries to make you forget the painful things. So you don't remember necessarily everything and time frames, and it's all a bit blurry because the picture is been made black and white so that it's not so, you know, colorful and vivid in your mind.
But so because of that, because the brain is trying to suppress those painful emotions, you are not able to learn from those emotions. Is that
absolutely spot on? Yeah. So that was one of those things that I had to learn the hard way, and it took me 28 years to do that. Which is obviously a little bit later down the line, and we can go into that as well.
Yeah. I mean, man, you faced like so many different challenges that many people, you know, could not even imagine. Like, where do you feel your resilience and the drive to survive came from in the first place at age 6?
Where did it come from? I don't know where it came from. I feel like it's at that age, you don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know if you remember being 6-year-old, but everybody who I've ever spoken to, and they were 6 years old, not everybody, but most people, you know, they were living life like a child, and they had the imagination, and they were playing outside and playing with their friends, and they, you know, loved their parents, or, you know, they had some issues with them, but it wasn't awful, you know? So I don't know necessarily where the resilience came from. It just seemed to have been something that you just do. Because when you're put in situations like that and you don't understand what's going on, the only way out at that age is, you know, I need to survive. It's like an animal, you know, when animals are born, Like some of them, they're defenseless, but if, a lion attacked them or something, they would do their best to get away. It's just instinct. And I think that's what it was. It was just pure instinct to survive. And then obviously beyond that, it was then instinct to inflict that pain on others, which is obviously sad, but it's the honest truth.
So look, we're going to be jumping a little bit back and forth, but I know that recently you had an accident that kind of affected your trajectory of personal growth, I would say. Is that safe to say or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had a motorbike accident about 4.5 months ago. It's pretty fucking bad. It's funny, there's a recurring theme in my life. Any injury I get is always like insanely bad. But I was on my Ducati, my super sport, and I was riding around. I wasn't being, dangerous or anything like that. Just going over a bridge very close to my home before I went to Miami to run a mastermind build. And this car just decided to do a U-turn on the bridge without indicating or looking. And as he turned, I tried to avoid, but I just went straight into the side of it. And the next thing I remember is, I was kind of being called towards this like astral plane, which was like a geometrical shape. So I can't fully describe it. And as I'm being called to it, some medic or copper, policeman, they shouted my name. And it made me look backwards and see concrete. And I came back to the concrete and I became conscious again and returned to life, so to speak. It was definitely a near-death thing. And it took them 2 hours to put me in the ambulance because my arms were so mangled. I had broken both the bones in my forearm. So I had the bones came out of the skin and they've had to reconstruct it with metal bars in my forearm. And then this arm, I broke the bone in 3 places, and they've had to reconstruct that with metal bars as well. I also smashed my face in, like my nose was broken again for the 4th time in life. And when I went to hospital, I had immediate surgery, and following that time, because I was in hospital for roughly about 3 months in the system, and I had brain bleed. I had spinal fluid coming out of my nostrils, which was pure gross stuff. I had a heart attack. I had a blood clot in my lungs. I had a range of infections, an infection in the scar on my arm as well, which made it have necrotic skin. And it was like, again, it was another situation where it was like, we need to fight to survive here again, So that changed a lot for me in terms of the trajectory I was on, because I'd only recently, and I say recently in the grand scheme of things, but come into actual success and had understood it and got life and understood how to make money to the point where money was never an issue anymore. So it definitely put like a spanner in the works, so to speak, in that front. And it's just sent me on another journey as well. Like I'm still doing the same stuff now that I'm out, but it didn't take a toll on me. That's not the right word. It took a toll on my body, but not on my mind. Because my mind had been strengthened through all of the stuff that I'd been through in life. And I can only remember probably 2 hours of the whole time I was in hospital where I was low, really low. The rest of the time, I was absolutely certain and positive about how fast I'm going to recover and I'm going to fully recover. Because in both of the injuries on my arms, the nerves have been damaged. So this hand, when I came out of hospital, it was like this stiff, and this finger was hyperextended. So it was like all the way back. It was the most painful thing. And the sensation across the whole hand was just insanely painful. It felt like everything I touched was either glass, fire, ice, or I was getting stamped on by loads of different people. And then in this hand, it just doesn't work still. Like I'm getting there, making progress. But it doesn't work. And they were telling me like, look, it's going to be somewhere between 2 to 4 years before you can actually, use your body again properly. And because it's had to regrow from here. So for those who don't know, the nerves regenerate.
To grow back, right?
Yeah. So there's 3 different nerves in your arm, but the nerves regenerate in the body. They reinnovate, they call it, at 1 millimeter per day. So obviously to go at this long, it's pretty much a meter long. So it's a long time, and it's regenerated from here. And what it should have been by this point is about here. But actually with me, it's regenerated all the way down to here already. So I'm recovering 8 times faster than they have ever seen anybody with this kind of injury recover. And I attribute that down to absolutely the determination and willingness to be in pain and be uncomfortable day in and day out in order to get the outcome, which was back to full health.
Okay. Is that something that you developed over the years, or do you feel like you always have been that way? Having this, I would say, desire to overcome those challenges and those mindset characteristics, I would say.
Definitely didn't always have it. I mean, there's been times where I've had to have it, like when I was young. But I definitely didn't always have it. Just, you know, after I was a bare knuckle boxer, I got arrested quite a lot. And there was one time where I nearly got put in prison for it because of all my previous plus this one, which they said was an aggravated assault. But it was only because somebody said, hey, I'll give you directions if you suck my dick. And I gave him a slap. And then he chased after me and I punched him and the police were there. And long story short, I went to court with it for it. And when I was in court, my lawyer was telling me, like, listen, you're toast. You're going to prison. And I was like, fuck. And I'd said goodbye to everybody, my friends, my family. And I went to court and I was like, there must be something out there that's going to save me. There has to be something to help me because this isn't right. This isn't fair. I was thinking at the time, which, you know, take it as you will. I know I made the mistake, but anyway, the punishment was a bit severe. And I went to court and stood up and I was ready to go and fight my case because I pleaded not guilty. And then the judge looked over to the prosecution and was like, where's the victim? And the prosecution was like, he didn't want to come today. And the judge said, well, if he's not here, I'm not charging this man with anything. And he let me go. And then obviously I was extremely elated and happy and went out and did all the things you want to do and party and everything else. But that moment was one of those times where it helped me develop mental toughness and helped me steer me on the right direction. And that was nearly the time, I think, where I started to learn that everything that happens is just redirecting you to the right outcome. And no matter how hard or bad it must be, there is always the shining light, which will be a different outcome to the one that you were preparing for. So the story never really ends. It's always just changing. The book is just changing to the next one, to the next one. It's like sequels, right? And so I decided to, you know, start taking things a bit more seriously in my life and not be such an asshole. And then I started doing cage fighting, mixed martial arts, and I became professional. And I was 9 wins and 0 losses. And I got scouted to get onto the Ultimate Fighter. And then, lo and behold, I was training one day really hard in the gym. I came out of the gym with a duffel bag with my pads and some weights in. And I went to sit down on a bus. You know, and because I was young, I wanted to still be like a little bad man. So I sat at the back of the bus, at the top of the bus. It took me a while to get there. So by the time I'd gotten there, the bus was going over a speed bump. And I sat down like this, slipped 2 discs in my back. And then I couldn't fight properly. I couldn't get that repaired either because I was just a brokey at that point. And so then another one of my dreams, another one of the ways that I thought my life was going, then completely changed again through injury. And that I think was a moment where I definitely didn't have that mental resilience, because I turned to drugs, and then I went into sales, and there was more drugs and cocaine specifically, and I was hooked on cocaine for roughly about 6 years. And I did some dumb shit on that, and wasted a lot of money, and burnt a lot of bridges, and met with a lot of people who were just not nice people. After that, once I managed to decide again to kind of get clean, which was just another thing that came up, and I was like, I've got to get off this. Then I started to look at how do I build that mental resilience. Mm-hmm. And that's when I kind of started looking into it and finding out ways in which to do it, you know.
And you mentioned that you found like a cognitive performance course, right?
Yep, that's
so,
it.
Like, what exactly was it about? And like, what exactly about this experience made it click it for you? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, I was searching for something. So after I'd got clean, I was like, well, my life's a fucking joke. Like, I'm in sales, I'm making no money. I'm not very good at it, but I don't have any other skill set other than fighting, and I can't really fight anymore. I lost my I let that boat sail, so to speak. Let's put it that way. And I was searching for a way to make money, as everybody does, right? Everybody's like, fuck, I need to make some money now. So I was looking for a way, and I went online and I searched for something, and this thing popped up, which was about how to improve your memory and how to focus on demand and read fast so that you can become really good at anything that you put your mind to. And I was like, that sounds good. I went to a webinar and I watched the webinar and I saw somebody do something crazy with their memory. And I was like, fuck, this must be the thing. So I called them up and I had no money. And that was the first time that I was ever in a position that I was going to invest in my skill set, in myself. And it was the best decision I ever made, because the program itself was advertised as like memory and focus and reading and be good at anything and make money. But the reality of it was a lot deeper, because memory runs deeper than just like, this is what happened yesterday and this is what I ate for dinner 3 months ago, whatever. It's deeper in the sense of your memories follow you. Like we were saying, right? Suppressing memories at the beginning. So a lot of it was about rewiring the brain and how to rewire memories so that they serve you rather than hold you back. And after I finished that course, which was like a 4-day intensive, my life changed insanely. And I remember afterwards, say again?
Like you said insanely, in what way exactly?
Well, for example, like my whole life I'd been living in fear of danger, because it was just hardwired into me to be constantly on the lookout for it.
I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine, at age 14, you went with the Pikeys doing knuckle boxing, then MMA, cage fighting. So I wouldn't say you have been afraid of the danger.
Well, there's two ways to deal with fear, right? It's one way is you just head straight in at it and you do the fucking thing, or the other one is you run away. And I've never been good at running. But nevertheless, it's not like I was never afraid. It was like I was always afraid, but that fear was what I chased. So I was living in a state of fear all the time because I was always chasing the fear. And when you're looking to avoid danger or be safe from danger, for example, what do you think you see every day?
Danger.
Absolutely. So I'd see people fighting. I'd see people, opportunities to get in trouble and get involved in things that I shouldn't get involved in. And it just kept building up and building up. And I think it's the same for people with everything in life. Like if you're trying to avoid something, then you attract it because you're saying, I don't want that. But your brain is only computing, I want that, because it doesn't compute the negative. Yep. So I had to rewire my brain to stop thinking about danger everywhere and start thinking about the things I want, like gratitude and success and winning. And that's why it shifted me massively mentally, mindset-wise, and physically, and everything else beyond that was just a massive, massive transformation.
Okay. So, like, after this course, you start to be more open for the personal growth, right? But
yep.
How exactly did it transition into the professional success?
Okay, so that's a great question. So before you can become professionally successful, I think you have to have some level of awareness, self-awareness, right? And what it gave me was the ability to look inward and deal with some of the things that had been triggering me always. You know, for example, if you and I were sitting here having this conversation 8 years ago, and you were sitting there like that looking at me, I would probably want to fucking rip your throat out. And most likely I would do it just for fun. I wasn't nice. But that way of thinking and that way of being would not allow me as a human to have success in anything other than the fight game or security or something where there is, violence involved, so to speak. So how it turned into a professional success was I decided to shift the paradigm from what I see as successful. Before, success was somebody who was violent and could do it and make money and, for example, be a heavy for people who are loan sharks and stuff like that, or a security guy. I shifted the paradigm to understand that success can be something else. And maybe success isn't necessarily about being hard anymore. It's about being, smart and skillful. And because of that shift it made with personal growth, it allowed me to start looking at things differently professionally so that I could learn the right things in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve. That first investment was what opened the door. If I hadn't invested in myself then, I probably wouldn't have invested in myself now. And I probably would have invested in something, it would have been shit and I would have given up. But that first investment, that difference that made me realize that if I just keep investing in myself, I'm going to keep progressing. I'm going to keep making more money or being better or improving life, quality of life, whatever. So that was really where that and how it kind of transitioned into professional success.
So after that, like what kind of was the first steps that you took to kind of start being more successful professionally?
Yeah, so I joined the company, man. You know, the cognitive performance training company. I was like, yo, this was so good. I want to be part of this. So I actually, I just did all of the work that they set beyond the first, the first fucking course bit. And I just started doing all of the stuff and like showing them, look, I'm really serious. I want to do this. I want to be really good. And then I started approaching the founder and I was like, listen, man, I want to work for you. I want to work for you. And he was like, oh, I don't know. Testing my resolve. And I was like, hey, fuck you, I'm working for you. Eventually I managed to. And then I was there for 2 years. And in that time I was able to build loads of money for the company. I helped them through the COVID period, which was difficult for them because they had to do a lot of, I did a lot of stage selling. So it was one to many. I had to do those things on like Zoom and in person and stuff like that. So I learned a lot of skills, but because I was a part of that company, I managed to accelerate that level of growth by probably 10, 15 years because it was all we did day in and day out. And I got addicted to helping people to transform, addicted to helping people overcome the things that held them back, like I had started to overcome myself. And because of that skill set, once I left the company, which I left, ironically, I had another motorbike accident at the time. It wasn't half as bad as this one.
How many accidents did you have, bro?
3. I had 3. This is what happens when you live in London and you got a fast motorbike, mate. It's just stupid. But anyway, so ironically, I had another accident, and unfortunately, the company weren't as supportive as I wanted them to be, or I was hoping for them to be. And they were like, look, you're not working, you're not making calls, you're not doing anything, so we're not going to pay you. And I was like, all right, well, fuck you. I've built your company for 2 years and you're just not going to pay me now. I'm unable to work. So I left, and then I was like, shit, well, I've got no money. I've got this nice apartment that I'm paying shit tons of rent for that I don't need to be paying this much rent for. And I was like on the verge of like completely broke. I think I had like £300 in my account. And then my good friend, really good friend, brother, Bill Walsh, reached out to me and he was like, hey man, I might have something for you. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I joined the same program you joined, you know, as a founding father, right, at the same time. And from that investment, you know, a month after that, I was making 3K a month to making 25K a month every month, and then 40K and 50K, 60K and 90K and so on, you know? So that was the catalyst, you know, for professional growth. It was that personal journey I went on to unlock the man I need to be that person that I wanted to be and could be, you know?
Okay. So like, I mean, you attribute a lot of your success in sales, and that's from the past podcasts that I have been watching with you, to having a lot of empathy, right? Mm-hmm. But before, when you have been talking about all of your experiences, you mentioned that growing up, you basically didn't have any.
Nope. How
did you develop empathy?
That's a banger of a question, Conrad. You're going to have to invest in my coaching. Oh, just teasing.
And the reason I'm asking is because this is actually something that I'm trying to develop more of myself.
Yeah. It's a hard thing to explain. Because really, if you look up what the definition of it is, it's just being able to see it from somebody's perspective, right? What they're going through and put yourself in their shoes. Now, it's difficult to do that if you don't know people, right? If you meet them, for example, and, you know, a lot of like the sales guys that we coach are like, I can't deal with people who are like super rich and make loads of money. And the reason is they can't put themselves in their shoes because they've never experienced life like that yet. And it's the same thing for those who are, you know, they're like really good with bucket ones. People who have who have low money or are in a 9-to-5 and want to break out and have freedom. They can relate to that. That's why they can sell those people. It's because they can actually see life from their perspective. They know that pain or the pleasure that they chase. So a large part of empathy is being able to know people and know what it's like to be in that kind of shoes of that person. And I've been blessed enough to know that I've been through a lot in life where I've had to deal with people from all different walks of life. Because my sales career, you know, I was dealing with Fortune 500 people as well. So everything from there to like the lowest of the low criminals and, you know, sexual predators and stuff like that. So I've had the luckiness in my life to be able to learn how people operate and what their modus operandi is and their pains and their pleasures and what they want, and been able to become a bit of a chameleon in that sense. So that's how I kind of developed it over time. But one of the things I started doing more so when I first got into sales was I tried to imagine things. So like I would walk down the street, and let's say you see like an elderly person walking down the street who's a little bit overweight. Put yourself in that person's shoes, right? How do you think they feel when they see a guy dressed like you walking towards them? Do you think they feel safe? Do you think they feel scared?
I think scared, more scared than safe.
Often, right? And why would they feel scared?
It's hard to say. More of a demeanor that I carry when I'm walking.
Okay, well, let's take you out of the picture, right? Because you're judging how they feel based on who you are and how you look, right? I know you look like a gangster, but it's not about you, about them, right? Why would an elderly person feel afraid of a young man?
They're vulnerable.
Correct, right? They're vulnerable. They have brittle bones. If you push them over, they possibly could die. You could steal what's in their bag, right? Alternatively, they could see you as somebody who reminds them of their grandchild, right?
Correct.
And then how would they feel?
More safe, I guess.
Yeah, they'd be happy to see you. They'd smile at you, right? So I would always try and put myself in people's shoes and understand, what is this person experiencing right now? Why could they be experiencing it? And in my mind, I would make up all these fucking hypotheses. However you say it, hypotheses. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
They're good enough.
Yeah, all these hypotheses, and you know, if I was in the mood, I would test them out. You know, I'd have a conversation with an old person, or I'd see, you know, like for example, like a fat guy running down the street, and I'd wonder, like, how does this man feel right now? Except for out of breath, right? He's obviously he could be feeling some form of confidence that he's actually doing this thing finally after he said so many times he's going to do it. Or alternatively, he could be very self-conscious that his belly is bouncing around as he's running down the street and wondering what everybody's thinking about him. And by just testing different hypotheses and putting yourself in those kind of situations, it helped train empathy for me, because I never had it. Like with ASPD, antisocial personality disorder, one of those things is you just don't have empathy. But I personally believe that was a misdiagnosis, and it was just based on the fucking trauma that I'd gone through in life and how my body and my mind had reacted to it. But doing these kinds of things really helped expand my mind into helping me see how people feel or could feel based on situations they're in, or how they look, or how they are, or whatever. And that really helped.
Okay. I mean, man, you faced really a lot of challenges, a lot of roadblocks in your life. And a lot of people would, you know, just throw in the towel, sit back and settle, unless they had big reason why to push through. Do you have something like that in your life?
Yeah, I do.
Are you open to share what it is?
Yeah, for sure. So based on things like, look, and this is a side thing as well, like I've got a lot of time for what we're doing here, you know, on your podcast, right? Because growing up, obviously, there'd been times where I just couldn't hack it and I wanted a way out and I wanted to quit. And I tried 3 times to commit suicide. Once I jumped out of a building off like the 3rd floor. It wasn't super high, but I jumped, broke my legs. Another time I'd overdosed, and another time I ran in front of a bus. And I just couldn't die, which I'm quite blessed to be somebody who has had many near-death experiences but never died. And I attribute that to my awesomeness and the fact that deep down, I think the universe knows that I've got something big that I need to do here in this world. One of those things is I want to create a foundation to keep women and children safe. And I want it to be global, and I don't want it to have any kind of funding from rich people and things like that. I want it to come from me, because then I know that it is actually for the right reasons. It's got the right intention, not one of those seedy, weird things. Like, I don't know if you know much about the UK, but things like Jimmy Savile, or, those people who would take advantage of those who are vulnerable because they have money. I don't want any of that shit happening. So one of my goals is to build that and, in one way or another, help people who were in the situation that I was in when I was kidnapped and trafficked. So this is one of my reasons why I keep pushing. Now, I didn't know this was the purpose that I had until I started doing this inner work, but in the back of my mind, it was always something that was obviously so clear to me, because whenever I saw women get in trouble, like I had 2 grievous bodily harm charges from the police and went to court and everything, got convicted for saving women who were getting raped. Whenever I saw a parent smack their kid, I would always be like, something in me would trigger me and I would want to go and talk to them, even though it's none of my business. And let's say I saw a kid running around on their own, my instincts would kick in. I'd be like looking around for the parent and just shadowing to make sure the kid's safe. So it's always been in me somehow, somewhat, and something that I'm lucky enough now I can invest, quite a substantial amount of what I earn into charities and stuff like that. But the end goal for me is to build something special and, help where I can.
Are you in the process of building that right now?
Good question. No, is the short answer. I'm not going to bullshit you or anything like that. I've spoken to a few people, and some people who have literally done this for a living, is to build, schools in Africa, 300 schools in Africa, and charities, organizations like that. And I have got connections who can help me to do these kinds of things. But personally, I'm not at the stage in life where I want to make that my absolute 100% priority. I'm still fairly young. I still want to build my own family. I want to build my own, lifestyle beyond what I built so far. Obviously, right now I'm recovering, I'm healing. So I've got things I want to do for me as well first, which is why I'm just investing a lot in terms of donations to charities I trust. But it's an end game thing.
But
and everything
this is your why, and this is something that you are thinking about on a daily basis. It's kind of pushing you forward every single day.
Well, every time I want to quit, I just think of all the thousands, hundreds of thousands of people I'm going to let down. Because when it's bigger than you, it's very difficult to quit. I don't know if you follow things like the SAS, which is like the Special Air Force and stuff in England, in the UK, special services. But everything they do is not about the individual. It's about the team. It's about the goal at the end. The same thing in professional sports. It's not about the individual scoring the hat trick. It's about the goals, the team scoring the goal. And if you can make something bigger than just you, that means that you're including them in your responsibility, which now means your crown is heavier. But it also means that you are willing to do things that others just won't do and push beyond your usual means. So I think that's a powerful way to encourage yourself to do more and help more and push through the hard times, no matter how hard they get. Because I knew when I was there lying on the floor and I was going towards the astral plane, if I died there and then, everybody who I help, not just in the future, like the women and children and things like that, but everyone I help along the way, all the people I coach, all the people I help and train, all the sales guys, all the family members, everybody I let down. And I can't die for that reason. I've got shit to do. So I think it's a huge way of getting you through the tough times, making it bigger than yourself. And it can even just be with family, right? I've got a family I want to help, or I've got a parent or a friend who I need to be there for, whatever it is.
This is actually something that I wanted to ask you about, because you found your why, but I feel like there is a lot of people that are just kind of skipping through life, trying to find their why, and kind of not being able to find big enough for themselves. If you could maybe not give advice, but from your experience, how would you go about actually finding it for yourself?
You need to ask yourself the right questions, and you need to not compare it to others. I've got a fucking huge why. I know it, right? That's mine. Doesn't need to be yours. Doesn't need to be anybody's. Your why could literally be, I want to make sure that I don't know, when I'm 60, I can do the gardening. I don't know, something, small or something like that. It doesn't need to be a huge thing. It just needs to be something that gets you up and moving. So if it doesn't innovate your energy levels, when you think about it, then you need to think a little bit harder. And I'll be honest with you, man, I hear a lot of people saying they haven't found their why and this and that. But a lot of people really don't sit and think about it. They consider it. They're like, what is it? Oh, it will come to me when it's ready. If you're not fucking searching for something, you're not going to find it. It's like if you go on Google and type nothing, is it going to give you a result?
No.
Your brain is Google. You need to ask it a question for you to find the answer. And it doesn't happen necessarily overnight, but you have to try things and trial things and get experiences so that you know what it is that moves you. So advice would be to actually go out and fucking experience life and do things and try and say, this is my why for now. Does it move me? Do I feel it in my bones? Can I visualize myself doing it? Can I feel that feeling now? And I bring it into this moment. And if you can do those things, then, it moves you right now. But your why doesn't have to be a solid, this is me forever. Your why can change.
Changeable. So find something for yourself that drives you at the moment, but don't be afraid to redirect.
You can think, exactly. You can think of it like a train journey, right? If you don't get on the train, you don't move anywhere. But if you get on the journey, if you get on the train, you go to the next stop and then you get off there, you can get on another train and go a different direction. But the point is get on a fucking train. Make something your why that resonates with you in this moment, in this phase of your life, in this chapter of your book. And then as you move on to the next sequel, you can change that why. You can push it on.
So you gotta keep momentum. Don't stay stagnant.
You gotta fucking start. It's not stagnant. It's like you gotta start something. You gotta go towards something. If you want something, you gotta find the answer for it, and you gotta move to get it. And I see a lot people complaining about not having a why, but not doing the things that are required to achieve a why. And you're not going to get your answer if you're not doing the legwork for it. Yeah. You can't just sit around. That's why you see, and no offense to any hippies who might be watching this, that's why you see all the tree huggers, right? They sit and they're doing drugs all day and they're like, oh, what's my why? I can't find it. And you're like, well, yeah, because you're off your fucking tits on drugs all day. You don't need a why. Your why right now is just getting high. Yeah. And that's why you're not finding it. It's because you're not doing anything to find it. You're sitting there hoping the fucking universe gives it to you, or God, or whatever you believe in. But that ain't life. That ain't reality. I wish, if I wasn't so grateful for what happened, I would have wished to have not gone through what I've gone through in my life, and I just had a quote unquote normal life. But again, life is normal for me in this sense because it's what I've been through. Yeah. But at the same time, if I hadn't have gone through that and done all that stuff, then maybe I would be just as lost soul as some people are, And not that everybody who doesn't have a why is a lost soul. It's not what I'm saying. But if you're not seeking, you will not find. If you're not moving, you will not get.
Yeah. The quality of the answers you get depends on the quality of the questions you ask.
Spot on, mate.
Wow.
That was a powerful summary.
Yeah. But he also said that, one of the ways of finding that why, and this is something that I wanted to give a little bit more time, is, to start, go out there and experience life. But, you had so many different experiences in your life. I would say it's for a couple of different lifetimes. So, what would you say would be some of the most valuable lessons that you learned on your journey so far?
Jesus.
Either in terms of the mindset,
I think one of the best ones, and this, it's weird because it's always been with me, but then I saw it verbalized on something the other day when I was looking at a video. It was on my Facebook or something. It was it wasn't even the other day. It was quite a while ago now. It was a few years ago, but it was from an addict. And they were saying the saying is one more day, just get through one more day, and that for me has got me through my entire life. When I was a kid, it was one more day, one more person, one more, thing that I have to get through. And it was always just get through one more. And then even to sales, right? It's get through one more call, one more day, one more cold call, one more triage, one more sales call, one more whatever. And it's always just been one more. And with my accident in the hospital, one more day, one more attempt, one more try, one more. Because you can always do one more, And it's the same thing in terms of the thing we're talking about, right? Those people who are going through it. one more day. And if you keep doing enough one more days, you'll come through the other end. And I think that is a really powerful, powerful mantra to live life by for many reasons. That's one off the top of my head. The power of being grateful.
In what way?
Well, I mean, being properly grateful. You know, people say, you know, I'm really grateful for your help. But do they mean it?
They don't feel it. They don't really feel it.
Don't feel it. And look, I've been at a point in my life where I didn't feel gratitude whatsoever. I was like, how do you expect me to be fucking grateful after my life? Everything that's happened to me. Victim mentality, I would call it now, right? Mm-hmm. But the minute you start shifting into a grateful mindset, and you're grateful for everything that you have and everything that you do not have. For example, you have fingers. I don't have fingers. I'm still grateful for my hands and my fingers and the fact it's regrowing, right? You take for granted the fact you have fingers. I did, until I woke up in the hospital like a spastic. I couldn't use either of my hands, right? So you take it for granted until you lose it. So being grateful for everything that you have just helps you to build more, but it helps you to feel better every day. And it makes the one more journey even easier because you're so happy you're doing it. You're truly grateful. And to get yourself to actually feel gratitude, you have to do things like write them down at night and genuinely go through the list and try and feel it. And if you do 10 and you can't feel any gratitude, do another 10 and then do another 10 and do another 10 and force yourself to fucking feel it.
Mm. Is that something that you practice yourself, would you say?
Absolutely. Not right now.
Oh, yeah, of course. But like overall, I mean, you don't have to be writing down to be thinking about the things that you are grateful for overall, right?
Exactly. I just do, I do notes on my phone. I just say, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. And then I'll read through them and I'll sit with my eyes closed and my hand on my heart and think how grateful I am for it, you know? But once you do it enough, it just becomes your general kind of way of life. So the second I woke up in hospital, I was grateful for the fact I was still alive. Fucking grateful. I was grateful for the fact that my family were there and that, you know, people, my friends, in fact, like came and saw me and visited me and didn't leave me on my own. I was grateful for that. Once upon a time, I didn't have any of that. The last accident, I didn't have it, you know?
So would you say that gratitude itself is a skill that you can develop as well?
Absolutely, yeah. And there's like study after study that shows just the power of gratitude on the mind. You know, they do studies of like how much of the brain is lighting up at different points and different emotions. And gratitude, if you do it, for example, at nighttime, your brain is in a green state for like 4 hours of the night. Whereas if you're not doing gratitude, then the brain is like red or it's like black or whatever the fucking color is. But it basically means there's less brain activity. So it's just like using less of your potential by not being grateful. But I don't know about you, but if you want to like succeed in life, I'd want to be grateful so I can actually get there, you know?
Okay. So in terms of the lessons, the two biggest ones, would you say just take the addict mentality? Just one more day?
Not quite. Not quite. That's a little bit of a different mentality, boy. But,
I'm just kidding. But
I know. Yes.
Approach everything with one more day mentality as well as be grateful for what you have.
They're two big ones. I mean, man, the amount of lessons that I've learned in my life there, I could probably write a book. And I'm not being big-headed or anything. It's just that I know I have loads of stuff, you know, to share and wisdom to give and all of this stuff. But I think those are the two biggest ones. And I think one of the biggest character traits to develop is determination and grit. I think those are the two biggest things. If you have those in your life and you have a vision of a why or whatever you want to call it, and you know what you want in life, and you have that, and the other things, gratitude and one more day mentality, you will always achieve.
I mean, you're a great leader, like in your own personal life, in the objection box. Can I ask, like, how would you say your past shaped the way you approach the leadership?
Well,
like,
firstly,
professionally and personally.
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you for that. That's a nice compliment. But I know I'm a leader in my life. And I think being a leader, it means being the same person wherever you are. I think that's a big part of leadership. But obviously being a leader is somebody that some other people can follow as well and can hear to. And a leader also takes in responsibility for everyone and everything in their life, you know? And anybody I help or I speak to or I coach or I train, either one-to-one or with the box or whatever in a mastermind, it's always like, I'm taking responsibility for your outcome, even though you should. I'm taking responsibility for it. And I think that being a leader, hold on a second, mate. What was your question? I'm on medication.
Yeah, of course. Like, how has your past shaped the way you approach leadership, both professionally and personally?
Thank you. I think it's more about like, when you go through shit, you know what it's like to go through shit. And when you're a leader, you're leading people often who are going through shit. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're leading with people, and you're propping them up and you're pushing them up to the next level. But it's always, on the lower end, it's more about being able to relate to that kind of the struggle of not being who you want to be. And I think if you look back at all of my previous experiences in life and all the bad stuff, it was a struggle of identity. It's like, who am I and why am I here? Am I the person I want to be? Especially in later life, and I think being able to come through that struggle, through suicide attempts, near deaths, fights, arrests, the lot, it shows you that no matter who you are now or at that time is not who you are and who you can be. And I think having that absolute conviction and certainty that a leopard can change its spots if the leopard really wants to change its spots allows you to lead people and help people that might not feel like they can be helped, or even boost up those people who know they are doing really well but want to get to the next stage, because you've also been on that journey too. So I think leadership through life experience has given myself, at least, the ability to help people push on. And just
so that combined with the empathy, I would say it's a dangerous combo.
Yeah, that empathy and the fighter spirit.
And what?
The fighter spirit. Yeah. Because whatever happens, like, you just got to be ready for the fight. Because life is a fight at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, But as long as you can keep fighting, you will always have a chance to win.
Okay. And what would you want for the people to take away from your story? Like, especially for the people who might either feel stuck in life, or maybe they feel a little bit defeated.
You're not defeated until you give up. So don't give up. Like, life isn't easy and you can go through the worst times, but it's a matter of who are you deep down. Are you going to fight this, or are you going to quit? And I know most people are going to say I would fight this, but for those of you who said I'm going to quit, what can you do to actually change that way of thinking? Start looking at it. I don't know what you can take from my story or whatever, because it's just my life, man. Like, for me, it's normal. Like, it's every day. I've lived it. I've breathed it. When I tell people, sometimes they're like, what the fuck? Like, this sounds like a movie. And I'm like, well, it's not, dickhead. It's my life, But from the things that you can see that people can go through and still persevere and come through, look at your life and see, is it really that bad? Or has it been something that has been a blessing, but you've just missed it? You've been missing it. Have you been looking at the wrong thing? Have you been seeing the danger like I did rather than the beauty? Have you been chasing the wrong rabbit? And if that's the case, how can you start looking at a new rabbit? How can you start?
Feel like the life has been happening to you or for you?
Correct. Yeah. So rewire your brain in the sense of the previous memories, but also find out what it is you want from life and start fucking becoming that version of you. Because even if you don't like your life right now, which I'm sure most people that listen to this love their life, bro. Like, do you know what I mean? But even if you're not where you want to be, you need to find out who you need to be to become that version of you. Because you can't be here doing what you're doing now and still enjoy the life that you want. The life that you want requires a different permeation of you, a different variation of you even. So what is that variation? What characteristics do they have? What decisions do they make? What things do they do? What actions do they take? What decisions do they make? How do they walk? How do they talk? How do they sound? How do they breathe? How do they look? How do they look after themselves? And plan out your fucking identity, who you are going to be, and then get after it and go for it. And that is a game changer for anybody.
Like, what kind of characteristics does have the person, the type of the person that you want to become has, and ultimately just ingrain them in your own personal brain?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But actually, this is something that I wanted to finish with. I mean, of course, again, you had quite a journey, but what does success mean to you now compared to what it meant 5, 10 years ago?
That's a great question. What does it mean to me now, success? I mean, for me, it's moved beyond just myself now. It's again, like it's gone back to, as we were saying before, it's success to me looks like being able to leave my mark. Success to me looks like being able to help a tremendous amount of people and change the way that they live and have that sort of butterfly effect of I've been here on this earth, and for as long as as long as I'm alive, and hopefully soon after I'm dead, if I've got a family and people remember me for the things that I did, and to know that when I leave this planet, that people have memories and they say that guy was a fucking good man. He helped. He was good. For me, that's what I think success looks like. Beyond all the cool shit and the cars and the superficial stuff that everybody wants. I think deep down success is rooted in like human nature, which is how many people can you affect? And in a good way, of course, for me now. I think that's really my success route nowadays.
When you say now, like, you mean like 5 or 10 years ago, you have been asking yourself, like, how many people I can affect in a bad way?
That was probably 50 years ago. No. No, what I mean is like 10 years ago, it was like, how much money can I fucking make? How many cool bitches can I bang? Like, it was all about me, like superficial bullshit, because I didn't have an identity of who I wanted to be. So without planning ahead, you're just fucking coasting through life. You're drifting. You're like to take a lyric from Katy Perry, like a plastic bag or whatever it is. Right? So you need to decide. I didn't decide who I was, so I didn't know where I was going. So everything was about making my life awesome, not other people's. That's what's changed.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of young men, especially these days in this century, are drifting through life. So like, if you could give like one advice only to like a really younger generation, like what would it be?
Stop fucking wasting time. You don't know how much you're going to have, trust me. You can lose it in a fucking blink of an eye without even realizing it. And if you haven't been through those things, you might not think it can happen to you, but you are not invincible. So you better take it quite seriously and realize that actually life is short. And if you don't start getting after what you want now, more and more years will pass and it'll get harder and harder to do it. So just get up, figure out what you want, and start moving in that direction. You can always change the train, but get on the fucking train now.
Yeah. You can always readjust, but you got to start in the first place.
Yep.
Nice. Nikki, I really, really wanted to appreciate you for, spending an hour with me. It's greatly appreciated. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we finish?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me on here. I believe in the cause and I'm happy to help. And hopefully my story has touched somebody in some way or another and it can help somebody do something. I don't know what. But if you have resonated with this and it has touched you, or you have questions, or you want to share a positive message or a negative one, I can take both, then send me a message, add me on Facebook, just let me know, that you're doing that. Otherwise you're not going to get accepted. I get spammed all the time. And if you want to look deeper in yourselves as well, and you want to do that kind of deeper, harder work, or you want to train in skill set, you want to improve your skill set, and you feel like somebody with my background can help you, then again, you feel free to reach out to me and we can see if I can fit you in or help you out with anything as well. So again, thanks a lot.
You definitely can. So guys, don't miss out.
Thanks, Conrad.
Awesome. I appreciate you, bro. See you.
Appreciate you too, mate. See you later.